Okay, well, hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, where we'll be talking about AI readiness and specifically Microsoft Copilot. I'll be your host for this morning. My name is Wayne Kirby, and I'm an account manager here at Alliance Business Technologies. Today, we're thrilled to have you with us for the discussion for Microsoft 365 Copilot and how to prepare for and how it can benefit your business. At the end, we'll be having a Q&A session. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to type them in the chat and we can discuss them at the end. As a managed service provider, our goal at ABT is to help our customers focus on their business by deploying quality IT infrastructure, information security, and cloud solutions. These empower business applications, boost employee productivity, and enhance efficiencies. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce our distinguished speaker, Philip Meyer, Partner Technology Strategist at Microsoft. With over 40 years of experience in the tech industry, Philip has dedicated 32 years to Microsoft ANZ, where he has become an expert in cloud technologies and compliance. So thanks for joining us today, Phil.
Pleasure. Looking forward to the session, Wayne.
Okay, so getting started. So with generative AI technology, we all know it's here. And is coming at a growing and remarkable rate. If we look at other similar technologies, it took 7 years for the internet to reach 100 million users, whereas we've seen things like ChatGPT do that in just 3 months. That is a clear indication that AI is the future. And businesses that adopt early will have a competitive edge. When in a recent study, 80% of organizations, when asked, believe that AI will give them that competitive edge. One of the most exciting developments in the world of AI we see is Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot. This is an AI-powered tool that is embedded across the Microsoft 365 suite in all the apps, unlocking productivity and unleashing creativity. It's built on Microsoft's comprehensive approach to security, compliance, and responsible AI. Microsoft and ABT alike follow a comprehensive approach to implementing AI within your business, and for good reason. Phil, how important is it to ensure we implement AI responsibly and not just release its capabilities to the masses with no prerequisites or readiness checks?
Look, maybe the best way to explain the importance of this is a little case study or a situation that arose recently. It's really been great that ChatGPT's been around since November 2022. But there's been some stories around even ChatGPT, incredible productivity, but there are concerns about the data that is shared in that public model. And there's been some stories like Samsung, who's had a developer write code and use ChatGPT, and then a hacker basically asked ChatGPT how to hack that code, and they were given an answer. Quite a substantial Australian company used ChatGPT in its early days to formulate a business plan based on a new product coming to market. Their competitor asked ChatGPT what might they release, and that business plan and product specs were given to their competitor. Look, so be careful with using ChatGPT. It's great for holiday planning. It's really good for writing poetry, and incredible. But when it comes to business, the principles that the team at ABT are sharing, and I thank Wayne for this opportunity, around security, compliance, and privacy and responsible AI are at the bedrock of what the Microsoft Copilot technology is. And that's really the fundamental difference between where the Microsoft approach, which is all about these factors that Wayne's beautifully put across on this slide. And I'm sure if you're running a business, you want your data to be secure. You want your information to be compliant. You want your staff to be compliant. And you want responsible access, no inappropriate behavior. You don't want it telling lies. You don't want it telling bad jokes. And so all these things are built into this Copilot environment. So great, we've got that as the principle that your data is safe, your users are working in a a diverse and inclusive environment without bias. But I did want to share a little story, if I may, Wayne, about even organizations who've deployed this in their business and haven't set up the guardrails within their business. And one that really struck me the other day was a private school in Sydney. So they deployed Copilot and they gave it to their teaching staff, they gave it to the administrative staff, and they gave it to the students. It was great. They were doing all this work and it was all staying within the school and no other school could see it and no other hackers could see it. So that's great. But the trouble was, because they hadn't put guardrails and compliance between each of those users, staff, administrators, and students, a student was asked to cleverly write a prompt, tell me all the salaries of the teaching staff. So this is where elements that Copilot bring and the Microsoft platform bring, even beyond the protection of your business, it's the ability to protect within the business. And I might leave you, Wayne, to then progress and explain how that element is possible by using the Microsoft 365 platform, Business Premium, and so on. So thanks,
Perfect.
Wayne.
Thank you, Phil. Yeah, that's great. So it just goes to show, without the proper security in place of your internal data, that's where we need to really focus on the compliance and security aspects before we let something like the AI, generative AI, loose within your environments. So how can we prepare for the era of AI? A few rules that we need to go by, and really it's plan, design, deliver. So what we're looking at here is the first step is to encourage everybody to standardize onto Microsoft 365 for everything within your environment. Some people using other third-party apps, as well as having the adequate licensing to ensure that you can actually use the product. By migrating everything into Microsoft 365, you can leverage AI's transformative potential and streamline the business operations. We do see other companies and using third-party apps like Dropbox and other platforms. And I believe, Phil, you've got another story here for why the oversharing of information that we use with those other platforms.
I do, Wayne. I'll try and be a little briefer than I was last time on this one.
No problem.
But it's in that same vein of the student who was able to get the salaries. So again, in this case, it was a construction company, and I found this one about 3 weeks ago. They deployed Microsoft Copilot. They had Business Premium. They gave it to the management of the construction company. They gave the technology to even construction workers. And again, it was pretty good and everything was operating well until a construction worker decided to write a question, a prompt, and asked for the names and phone numbers of all female employees under 35.
Ooh.
Not good. And interestingly, that they got that formatted into a table. They were able to then, from a table, turn it into a spreadsheet. And this individual then emailed it to his friends. Now, fortunately, they had activated one of the elements in the comprehensive security, which actually isn't even listed there, which is called data loss prevention. It's one of the capabilities that is inside Business Premium, a very extensive range of capabilities in Business Premium for security, compliance, privacy, security. And data loss prevention actually picked that transmission up out of their business to an external group of users. And because it included phone numbers and dates of birth, which are considered PII, personally identifiable information, an alert was sent to the administrator to say that communication had occurred. So they were able to identify the offender within their business, take some remedial action to address it. But the next thing they did was definitely go about activating some of the elements that Wayne's very kindly put up there, including information protection and some of the other elements not on the slide, like sensitivity labeling, to ensure that the data was classified, that only certain individuals were able to access. In this case, it was HR data. The query went through the HR records of those staff members, looked at the age or date of birth, looked at the phone number on their employee application, and formatted the table. Very, very clever, but very inappropriate of that individual to have done what they did. So yeah, please be conscious that security, compliance, sensitivity labeling, personal identifiable information are all important elements as we introduce this technology, so powerful, to your business. Thanks, Wayne.
That's right. So yeah, so that example of the task, that would have been great if that was the HR person looking at it for an actual use case. And then that's where we need those sensitivity labels, data leakage prevention in there, as you explained, Phil. So thank you for that. Which brings us on to the next stage of that AI ready checklist. So ensuring that we have adequate data governance and permissions in place. Along with AI-powered tools, these will help protect sensitive business data and accidental leakage of information that shouldn't be getting out outside of the company. Part of this all comes around the Zero Trust Foundation, which is a security approach that assumes breach and explicitly verifies every request, regardless of its origin or resource accessed. An example of this is receiving changes to an invoice for bank account details. With the adequate things in place, these alerts will get flagged and brought to light to avoid transfer of funds to unknown malicious parties. So preparing customer environments for a better Copilot experience by reviewing data governance policies, protect sensitive organizational data, and prevent content oversharing. So on our final step is then to, once we've got all our security in place, we'd look to empower employees with secure AI-driven tools to enhance productivity by automation of routine tasks that reduces employee workload and help promoting a better work-life balance. Microsoft Copilot comes in 3 different flavors, each tailored for specific use cases. We have the free version that you'll find in your Edge browser, which is available now. This goes out to this is a bit like the ChatGPT version, so it will go out and it will query the web. Anything that is put in here without signing in with your Microsoft account and adequate licensing, that information is then shared with the rest of the world and the rest of the users. The next step we've got there is obviously Microsoft Copilot within work. So with our adequate licensing, we get that commercial data protection, which keeps all of those queries, any content that's put in by staff within that Microsoft space and not used to build up those LLMs or those large language models. Even with that edge-free version, once we've got a business premium or above, data can be protected with commercial data protection. Chat data is not saved and no one at Microsoft can view the customer data that's inputted into there. The other benefits for Copilot, it can also help to improve workday efficiencies for the user. It can help with things like summarizing long PDFs, assisting with drafting of emails and social content, generating images, and providing answers to specific and complex questions. So here at ABT, we offer a comprehensive solution to help businesses get AI ready. Our AI readiness assessment will assess, review, and work with your team to continue the deployment scenarios for Copilot that can fit in your business. We also offer a professional adoption engagement to ensure smooth transition to the era of AI. A bit of the roadmap that we look at for this Copilot journey is having a meeting, discussing workshops, having a look at the art of possible, seeing what you can do with AI within your business, where it will fit, if it's just a personal assistant, or whether we can actually use it for more larger use cases, say for tracking inventory throughout the business. Our AI readiness assessment will help you standardize onto Microsoft 365, protect sensitive business data, and empower employees with secure AI-powered tools. We will also help you implement good content management practices, such as sensitivity labels, DLP. We will also help to prepare organizational data for Copilot, so arranging proper permission structures and hierarchies for where you keep that content. Reviewing data governance policies and protective sensitive data within the organization. Cool. I think we've flown through this quite quick today, Phil. Did you have any other sort of stories, use cases that would be of benefit to our guys?
Look, Look, I think your adoption and change management element that you've brought in there at the end is an important one to consider. I know that I get very passionate about security and compliance, and that's largely on the back of the stories that I did share. And it's interesting, I reflect on security and compliance as something we've been advocating for many years, even before Copilot.
Yes.
And frankly, we've got away with what we might term security by obscurity.
Hmm.
People didn't know how to find the data before in the business. But wow, with the smarts of AI and the cleverness of Copilot, an area we didn't really dwell into, which is the semantic index, which finds all the information in their business. With that arriving, it's now super easy to find information. So that obscurity is gone, that mist is cleared. And now it's so easy for people to just ask a question. Give me a document that talks about. And if it's not appropriate for them to have that document, we need to put the guardrails in. We need to put the protection in. So again, I'm going on about security because it's an area I've focused on for many years. But it's almost like Copilot is this perfect storm. It's now saying, oh, you've been reluctant to put in all the compliance. Oh, it's all been too hard to put data loss prevention in. Oh, we don't want to do that. But now we've got this incredible opportunity, the magic of Copilot coming along. It's now saying, well, we actually have to do the security, everybody. We have to put the compliance in. Otherwise, you're going to have the horror stories, as I mentioned, of that private school and that construction company and others. But again, I really like you've got the adoption and change, because something we did discover in the early access program for this technology, thousands of businesses did try this out prior to becoming available in January publicly. And something we got from that was that many users didn't know what that little ribbon button is at the top of the screen, that Copilot button was. They were reluctant to press that little button that's on my screen there in the middle between the Teams logo and the SharePoint logo. They were reluctant to press that button. So this adoption engagement model that you're offering, I think, is such an important part to run in parallel to the security implementation, to show individuals, just a small group to start with inside the clients who've kindly taken the time out today, the value that can be obtained, and for that small group to then expand to a larger group, and then to a larger group, and eventually across the organization. But I do not condone the idea that you just deploy this to everybody straight out of the gate. I think it's a stepping stone approach, and I'm sure your adoption model would support that approach as well.
Yes, definitely. We always start off with a after the readiness check, obviously ironing out any blockers that will actually stop it. So things like your whole file system being on-prem is obviously one of those. Inadequate licensing is another thing that obviously we need to make sure is in place before we can go ahead. So yeah, definitely with those. On the adoption side, the other big thing I found with these is differentiating the difference between Copilot for the web or ChatGPT versus Copilot for 365. Where we're looking inbound at our company data, whereas the latter goes opposite, outbound for questions, as you said, writing poetry and things like that. I think the first chat that I ever did in ChatGPT was write me a story based on Pride and during a soccer game. That was the first thing I put into ChatGPT, and it spat out something quite wonderful.
Look, I absolutely, I was into ChatGPT back in November 2022, and I had to draw pictures through DALL-E. But quickly I realized that when the Copilot came along, or as we had a chat before preparing, it used to be called Bing Chat Enterprise, right? Its name's changed now to Copilot, but you can try it out. Anybody on the line can try it out now, copilot.microsoft.com. You can try that out for free. And if you're using a personal identifier, your personal email address, you won't get the element that Wayne kindly talked about, which is that CDP, commercial data protection. Nonetheless, I use that in my personal life to do things like compare the top 3 selling tennis rackets and draw that as a table. So much better than ChatGPT, because it actually gives me factual answers. It gives me citations and references to where I can buy those top 3 selling tennis rackets, one of those top 3 selling tennis rackets. And it gives me points from that I can go and do the work. It doesn't make it up. When I used ChatGPT, this was a year ago, to do some holiday planning for Japan. I asked it, well, what should I do in Takayama? And it gave me a script for 4 days in Takayama. But a couple of the places didn't even exist. It was made up. But by using Copilot, it gave me factual answers. The places existed. They weren't made up.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences with ChatGPT and querying it against some questions and then verifying the information. You provide it back to ChatGPT and it says, "Oh, thank you for updating."
Yep.
So it's quite good. Okay, well, I think so. In a conclusion, AI is the future, and businesses that adopt AI early will have a competitive edge. At Alliance Business Technologies, we offer that comprehensive solution to help get businesses AI ready and unlock the power of Microsoft Copilot. So we can open the floor for any questions that we've had coming up. So we'll have a look. Q&A. So if anybody's got any questions, obviously now feel free to punch them in, and myself and Phil will do our best to answer them for you. So we've got Craig Archer asking what licenses are needed. So for a minimum, we require the business premiums to be able to unlock the security features in that we need. And then for the Copilot license by itself, at the moment, it's only on an annual purchase. And it's so no monthly lock-in or trial. The main reason for that is once we license the users or the tenant with the Copilot license, it actually takes about a month for the whole program to go through and index everything. So we don't actually get some, you'll start using it straight away, but it won't be until after that you'll use it very seamlessly. I queried it. I think I got activated the license at the early last week, and I'm trying to look up history on a email subject line that I have, but it gives me that response that it hasn't quite been indexed yet. So it does take that time. But yeah, we can definitely help out with licensing after the readiness side of things. But I think we're looking at, what's the current price of that now? I know it's above $300 for the year, something like that.
I can answer that one.
Thank you.
So currently the price for that one is around about $539 GST on an annual subscription, so annual upfront.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Bree.
If I can add, Wayne, also as to
Sure.
why we've gone for the annual, and I think I shared with this earlier. It actually, this whole AI thing uses an enormous amount of electricity. In fact, 3 months of that $500 figure is what the electricity cost is just to index your environment. It's massive. And part of the reason for the delay in the release of the technology is simply because we needed to have renewable energy agreements for our various data centers around the planet. So there was a delay in us doing that because we got a massive commitment to sustainability in the ecosystem, and having a planet we can live in for my grandchildren is in and around that use of renewable energies and our commitment by 2030 to be net zero and 2050 to repair the damage we've done to the planet with our technologies today. So yeah, that's why we had to go for annual. If we basically got a monthly fee, it costs us 3 months of equivalent monthly fees just to index your environment. And if you stepped out of a month, we're going backwards. And then we've still got to pay our programmers, and we've got to pay for the data center facilities, etc., with that fee. So we had to go annual. And you've also asked the question there, Craig, around does it index on-premise servers? No, you do need to work with the team at ABT to migrate your files to services, cloud services like Teams, SharePoint, and OneDrive. So it won't work with Box and Dropbox. It won't work with things like Zoom and the like, or Slack. You will need to start to leverage those services that you're actually already paying for in the business premium subscription. Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, all those sorts of services. And net, we believe this is also an opportunity for you to think about consolidating the expenses in your business instead of paying for, another product for security, for, the endpoint security, Defender type product, another one for email security, a Slack or a Zoom or a Mailguard or a Mimecast. Here's an opportunity to look at that and potentially reduce We know that some customers are paying as much as $70 a user a month for products that they get in that, what is it, Bree, $30 a month in business premium?
Yep. It's about $32, $33.
There is $32.90.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so $32.90 on the annual commitment, pay per month. Otherwise, I think it's about $39 something if you're just doing it by a month to month without locking in those numbers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Yeah, so Maritza, we've got the pricing remains a sticking point for wider adoption at schools at the moment. Is there an education specific price for Copilot for staffs and our students?
No, there isn't. And that's largely, again, because we don't get the electricity different prices for students or non-profits as well, or government. Now, the cost of electricity, the cost of these data center facilities is the same. We don't get that ability to differentiate between different energy plans based on the type of user. So, yeah, sorry about that. Everybody's, whether it's education, non-profit or commercial, it's the same figure that was quoted there by Brie a moment ago.
Yeah, same electricity. That's very interesting fact.
But in terms of the justification, some of the stuff we haven't shared in this content, and maybe it's worth looking at a second one, is some of the findings that we had from the recent Work Trends Index and the trial period, where we saw increases in productivity ranging up to 80%. They talked about saving 10 hours a month on average by using this Copilot technology. If you think about what's 10 hours in dollar terms for a salary, it's very, very simply, quickly justifies that $500 over a year. We're talking thousands of dollars that you're increasing the productivity by per employee for a simple investment of $500.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we also recommend, obviously, as we said before, the pilot group for testing. So it was a minimum 5 users we recommend getting into this to get the real productivity in the different areas as well, and to be able to work out the best use cases for the businesses as well. Okay, with no more questions there, I think we can look to wrap up.
We do have one question from Craig Wallace.
Oh, yes, sorry. Is this just Microsoft's version of Google? As in the Google search, I think we mean there. No, we had Bing a while
Google
ago.
actually don't have anything like this, and my daughter works for Google. When I showed her this, she fell off the chair. She said, no, we haven't got anything like that. So Google Search is a word search platform. This is using semantic index. So
Yep.
When you search using a word like elephant in this world, the semantic index, it knows an elephant has got 4 legs, a trunk, it's got tusks, it's got big ears and little ears, depending on for African Indian. So the searching here is a lot more complete and interesting in the results than what you get with a Google search, which just searches simply for elephants. So if you're looking for, in a business context, March sales report, when you search for the March sales report, it'll know that that was prepared by Sally and John and Rudy. It'll know that the elements that it drew on to create that March sales report are also connected into that data set and that query through the index that's created. It's very, very different to what Google does today, and even where they are today. And in fact, I had to help my daughter who works for Google recently with some stuff to do with RegTech. And we went to the Copilot technology to help her prepare her content because they just don't have anything like this.
I think I've got another good example for this one is, in fact, even as we speak now, this meeting is being transcripted. And so imagine having meetings, board meetings or so forth, where you needed to find a piece of information. You don't know what exact meeting it was, but I just know it was that really important piece of information. And so you could potentially use Copilot to go through your index and actually find that information.
Mm. The semantic index is also listening to the audio elements of this, and it's recording elements of things like frustration. So I'll have meetings sometimes that I miss. I can use the transcript which includes those sentiment elements to it, to say what tension arose during the meeting.
What was the tone?
What was the tone of the meeting? So that element is also captured in the way. It's not just like read AI, which is being used here, which is just words. This is way more sophisticated than that it's able to identify when people are happy, when people are sad, when there is tension in the room. And then when you ask those questions like what tension occurred and give me the cited answers, it's able to look at those audio recordings, not just for the textual elements, but for the emotion that was shared, and to be able to drill down to those points.
Oh, that's fascinating. Cool. Okay. Looks like we've got no more questions coming in through. If there's nothing else for us to share, I think we can wrap up there, Phil. So thank you so much for attending. Anyone that's obviously more interested to hear about Copilot or to have a look at our readiness assessments that we're performing, feel free to email us at sales@alliance or abtechnologies.com.au, or feel free to pick up the phone and give us a call on 1300 705 062. And my name's Wayne Kirby, joined with Phil Meyer and Bree Gordon. Thank you all and have a great day.
Thank you.